nothing. Wait for it.
Attention all personnel. Report immediately to admitting ward and operating room. Attention all personnel. Report immediately to admitting ward and operating room.
The next short clip is a brief interview with Robert Altman, where he shares his views on the movie MASH and his desires on direction on where the movie MASH was to go.
We certainly broke some new territory, no question about it. In the first place, it was about the Korean War, and we shot it in the middle of the Vietnam War, and I wanted it to be about the Vietnam War, but they were adamant that it couldn't be that. So, but we didn't pay much attention to them. So when they saw the picture cut together, they made us put a little disclaimer that to say that this was in Korea. So it's on the legend on the beginning of the film.
The Conversation, which is a website, published an article by Darrell Sparks titled MASH, 50 Years on the Anti-War Sitcom. This article addresses Robert Altman's 1970 film MASH, which was based on the novel by Richard Hooker, which was controversial, irreverent, and a very dark comedic film as opposed to Larry Gelbart and Gene Reynolds' television show of the same name that was intentionally created to be pointed and political at the Vietnam War. Of course, the comedy mixed with the seriousness of war never gelled, causing it to flop as an anti-war movie. Larry Gelbart, the executive producer of MASH, the TV show, speaks about his relationship with CBS and their stance on the Vietnam War.
CBS could be very annoying, and were. But in the big matters, allowing us to say what we wanted to say about the war, the political aspect, never a word. And for that, I'll always be grateful.
Ever get the feeling there's a war going on?
There's always a war going on. War is the world's favorite spectator sport. Who needs more skin sutures?
Well, everybody knows war is hell. Remember, you heard it here last.
War isn't hell. War is war and hell is hell. And of the two, war is a lot worse. How do you figure that, Hawkeye? Easy, Father. Tell me, who goes to hell?
Sinners, I believe.
Exactly. There are no innocent bystanders in hell. But war is chock full of them. Little kids, cripples, old ladies. In fact, except for a few of the brass, almost everybody involved is an innocent bystander.
Well, I'm not. I'm here because my country needs me.
I didn't know it wasn't just some excuse to ship you 8,000 miles from home.
Yeah, the Korean War was invented so your parents wouldn't come looking for you. You're a sickos.
All in the Family, another widely popular 70s sitcom, could only manage to successfully pull off 2 episodes addressing the Vietnam War. Here is a clip from one of those episodes.
I asked him what he's doing up in Canada. It ain't like he's a deserter from the army or something, is that?
No, sir. I'm not a deserter.
Well, I didn't think you was. I was just trying to figure
I'm
out.
a draft dodger.
What did he say?
He said he was the draft dodger.
What differentiated MASH from other shows of the era that tried, unsuccessfully, to comment on Vietnam? MASH was a product of its time, but the themes regarding the absurdity of war are timeless. At its heart was a mix of dysfunctional characters who used humor while reminding audiences of the lives lost fighting on the front lines and the trauma of those fighting behind the lines.
I don't know if that conversation had anything to do with the way we did the show, but the fact that we did the show that way, I think, made a big difference between that show and just about any other comedy that had ever been on up until then, because we had very funny comedy. We had all kinds of comedy, burlesque, satire, every kind of comedy that you can think of, and we had the recognition that the war was acid, and we didn't drop either of those, and that gave us a combination that was surprising, and it helped the audience, I think, once they caught on to us, once they realized what we were doing and where we were, that it gave them a chance to appreciate the show the way you appreciate life. Life has high spots and low spots. Life is not a series of giggles the way most half-hour comedies have tended to be. So that's one of the things I think that made it interesting.
As Alan Alda, who portrayed Surgeon Captain Hawkeye Pierce, explains, he did not want to reduce the war to simply a background setting or a 9-to-5 job.
I wanted to make sure that they agreed with me that the war wouldn't just be a jovial background to hijinks. I didn't want to do hijinks at the front. The only recent example of a wartime comedy was McHale's Navy, which I thought was the kind of thing we wanted to avoid. I mean, everybody was amiable on that program and it was amusing, but it treated the war as just the job they had. I mean, it might have been the newsroom on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and I don't think war is a job. It's a horrendous event, every one of them. And the people who come back from wars tell you that, and all the research we did certainly confirmed that.
The following clip, "I Won't Carry a Gun," illustrates perfectly what Alan Alda was saying. The mix of comedy plus the acknowledgement of the seriousness of war is what made MASH such an enduring success.
Pierce, you're officer of the day.
I pass. Give it to somebody else.
You're it, and that's an order. Here's your armband and logbook. Here's your belt, holster, and sidearm.
I will not carry a gun, Frank. When I got into this war, I had a very clear understanding with the Pentagon. No guns. I'll carry your books. I'll carry a torch. I'll carry a tune. I'll carry on, carry over, carry forward, carry Grant, cash and carry me back to old Virginia. I'll even Harry carry if you show me how, but I will not carry a gun.
In the final 2 clips, we see MASH at its best, emphasizing the bonds that formed during wartime, and in the scene announcing Colonel Blake's death, we see that no matter how great the losses, those at war must carry on.
Pass it around, would you, Pierce? As I recall, it was mighty smooth in 17. Well, it should be magnificent now. Just one thing. I'd like to make the first toast solo to my old buddies. Here's to you, boys. To Ryan, who died in WW1, the war to end all wars. To Gianelli, who died in the war after that. To Stein, the joker of the crowd. And to Grusky, my best friend, who just passed away in Tokyo. You were the friends of my youth, my comrades through thick and thin, and everything in between. I drink to your memories. I loved you, fellas. One and all. Still mighty smooth. Okay, that's the old, now for the new. To love and friendship.
Radar, put a mask on. And that's my discharge. Give it to me straight. I can take it.
I have a message. Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake's plane was shot down over the Sea of Japan. It spun in. There were no survivors.
The movie was released in 1970. Set in the Korean War, it was designed to be a pointedly, politically funny critique of the Vietnam War. It failed in that attempt to end up only being known as a dark comedy, while MASH, the TV series, merged comedy with the acknowledgement of the brutalities of war in such a way that the audience watched for over a decade, making the final episode the most watched episode in television history.